Hey, I'm Chisha, and that's my entry for the Whenever the Hell Reviewer Contest. The cartoon series called Eddsworld, created by Eddsworld, is a light-hearted comedy about three friends going on quirky adventures. That unexplainable childhood-like atmosphere, which Eddsworld nails perfectly, combined with impeccably balanced jokes, makes the show an enjoyable watch. Sadly, Ed Gold, the brain behind the show, died in 2012, leaving the show in the hands of his friend Tom Ridgwell and his crew. After raising production money on Indiegogo, Eddsworld's legacy begun. I'm not going to focus on what had been going on behind the scenes, and from what I've read, it was a nightmare. Animators leaving, failed concepts, and bad planning is just the tip of the iceberg. Anyway, let's talk about the legacy episodes and see if they live up to the original series. Space Face marks the start of the legacy episodes. Due to serious health problems, Ed Gould didn't manage to finish most of the animation or even write the script. His frequent collaborator, Paul Tavore, handled the rest of the animation while Tom took care of the writing. From now on, the lightheartedness is almost gone and there are more random jokes thrown in. Part 2 was made without Ed on board. This is where things start to feel odd. While the animation is amazing, everything in the plot is going on too fast and the jokes come off as a distraction. Not to give much away, I'd say the twist in this episode seems shoehorned in. Clearly someone tried to connect different ideas into one with a mediocre result.
Overall rating.
Pretty okay. Moving on, Snogger, animated by Paul. This one is a step up from the previous episode. It's shorter and that's good, because that means less padding. Besides that, it's similar in tone to Space Face, but less cluttered and more Ed-like. This episode also introduces Paul and Patrick, modeled after Paul Tavora and his friend. I think the duo had a lot of potential, but in the later episodes, they were downgraded to Easter eggs. Ed's new voice actor, Tim Hottekiet, is quite decent to be honest. It's not the same, and it will never be, but on the other hand, the acting isn't bad and his timbre is pleasant enough.
Overall rating.
Quite enjoyable. Hide and Seek, animated by Tabby Knit, is another short. The animation's really good. The writing here is sorta odd as the punchline is telegraphed from miles away. Also, Matt is acting out of character. In the past episodes he was vain and egotistical, but not this dumb. Here, they made him into a total idiot. That's not good.
Overall rating.
Nothing outstanding. Fun Dead, animated once again by Paul. This is a big one. It's the goriest episode in the Legacy season, but I guess it's not that bad. Aside from the unnecessary references to classic episodes, it does have some jokes that work. Some don't, though, like the whole not getting the zombie apocalypse thing. I mean, as before, the characters are not idiots. Stop trying to change their personalities to fit the joke.
Overall rating.
Good for what it is, but as an episode, I would see something that flows better. Now, here's Power Ed, animated by Cried. For some reason, it seems more like a fan work than an actual episode. The concept is uninspired, and I get a feeling it's just tropes from previous episodes, joined into a hodgepodge of gags of uneven quality. This episode is kinda boring and doesn't seem right to me, even if there are scenes that are genuinely entertaining. It's almost like a checklist. Montage, check. References, check. Legacy donators, check. Eduardo, check. As usual, the plot is going too fast and the jokes are predictable, like the age-old, it's a plane joke.
Overall rating.
Mediocre. Mirror Mirror, animated by Sandra Rivas. By the way, the animation is fantastic, very fluid and dynamic. This is clearly a fan service episode, without much humor or anything that feels like a cartoon in it. It's just... I know they put in a ton of work into the episode, but sadly, it doesn't deliver much entertainment other than a quite neat source for male fans' fantasies. On DeviantArt and stuff like that. Pretty bad, as before, too many filler jokes, not enough substance.
Overall rating.
Dispensable, even for Legacy standards. Salunatics, animated by Prickle and her friends. If you look at her previous works, particularly Bombing Crew, she seems like the perfect choice for Eddsworld. However, here, she went for a more minimalistic anime-inspired look. Now, the plot goes absolutely nowhere, and on top of that, the extremely random jokes are timed badly. Also, puke and ass jokes in Eddsworld. Well, there is certainly more of this type of gags than in animated episodes, but back then, there would always be a funny conclusion. Here, we get Ed barfing. Ha ha! On the other hand, there's a handful of jokes that aren't half bad, like the gun naming one.
Overall rating.
Average, but it has its moments. The End, Parts 1 and 2. The first part's animated by Paul, while the second is a collaboration between a lot of people, making the animation inconsistent and distracting. If you're expecting a great finale, don't. The End is a total disaster. The writing here is, let's put it this way, the biggest flaws of Eddsworld Legacy are crammed into these 2 episodes. We've got fan service, random and predictable jokes, bad timing, a forced montage, and characters acting strange and out of their personalities to fit the plot. Oh, almost forgot. The nail to the coffin. The character Tord, who used to be one of the protagonists, returned as the villain. Any reason to turn him heel? Any reason to do it the lazy way? No explanation, no foreshadowing. Bam, he's evil. I'm aware that the production of the episode was a mess, but here I'm looking at the Legacy episodes from the watcher's perspective.
Overall rating?
Awful. Skip it. And that's Eddsworld Legacy. Is it a worthy continuation of Ed's efforts? Was it ever supposed to be? Some ideas are executed elegantly, but the majority feels off. The pacing and choice of humor may be far away from Ed's era and the charm may be lost. But I still gotta hand the crew kudos for giving the show another few episodes. This is definitely more of a tribute to Ed's past works than something that was meant to really keep the show back on track. You know, I'd recommend to give it a watch, but just don't set your expectations too high.